Hello, and welcome to the Proactive Caregiving Podcast. As a CPA with over 20 years as an industry accountant, Jessica stepped away from the corporate world to become a full-time caregiver for her mother. Having learned invaluable lessons along the way, she is now here to share those with you and to invite you to join her on this caregiver's journey. Here is your host, Jessica Cannon.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad you're here with me today. I am the Proactive Caregiver, and I specialize in educating others on how to be proactive by empowering you, the caregiver. If you cannot take care of yourself, then you cannot take care of your loved one. And on that vein, that thought, today I wanted to talk to you about areas of mental health concerns, because part of taking care of ourselves is recognizing our mental health. When it comes to the mental health issues, we're still only scratching the surface. After so many years of researching dementia, you would think we would know more at this point, but science responds with an outrageously expensive pharmaceutical treatment. Do we know what causes mental health? No. We are still guessing. And yet, we do know how to profit from these mental health disorders. Although perspectives related to genetic factors are becoming less of the go-to explanation, lifestyle is finally becoming more of the conversation. It is finally beginning to gain more respect. Trying to pinpoint symptoms for mental health disorders is extremely difficult. When you look at a list of symptoms for fibromyalgia, for example, and compare them to dementia-related disorders, they are on the same spectrum. Differences in how our brain functions. It leads to a wide range of cognitive, emotional, motivational, and social functions. Recreational therapy is the holistic response. It's the response in preventing and managing mental disorders before reaching those chronic or debilitating levels. And although recreational therapy is still a new concept, it is becoming a better intervention than pharmaceuticals. Of course, there is a potential for sore muscles, maybe even injury, but the benefits outweigh the risks with proper guidance. Recreational therapy addresses the whole person through creative expression by focusing on their intellectual, their spiritual, their emotional, their social, and physical needs. So as the founder of the nonprofit Dementia Recreate, my guest understands this all too well. Sushanthi holds a degree in biology with a certification in therapeutic recreation, with a focus in gerontology. But I will let her go into the details of how she fell in love with this profession. Thanks for coming on with me today, Sushanthi.
Hi, Jessica. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. I actually work as a recreation programmer for seniors at a long-term care facility in British Columbia. And thank you for that lovely introduction. And you said it so well. Recreation is definitely the better way of helping people right now, and especially in dementia care. And we'll get more into the details later. Mm-hmm. I was always passionate about working with seniors, and my journey was from my grandmother, caring for her from a young age. And I just thought that's where I need to be, and that's where I should be doing more.
Mm-hmm. So when you started out caring for your grandmother, and then eventually later in life working with individuals, seniors in our long-term care facilities, what do you feel like we're missing at this point as far as trying to address the whole person versus just treating symptoms?
Yeah, I think for me, actually, I didn't even know this whole world existed until I started working with them. To be honest, because I was going in a route of medicine and becoming a geriatrician. And then I had to sort of pause and go and experience things for myself and see what is the ultimate help that I could do for them. And as soon as I started working with them, it was all down to pain and chronic illnesses and
Mm.
diseases with no cure. And a lot of them were just lonely and depressed. And that's when I fell in love with recreation, because I was able to get through to people that no one can get through at times. And it was just because you were finding things and getting to know them and finding the right interventions for them. So
Right.
you were able to get them out to a place where you've never seen them before. They're having fun and they're happy, but they were complaining of pain like an hour ago. So it's like,
Mm.
that's when I was like, this thing works. And it's helped me personally as well, because through my back injury and I have chronic back pain, and I think I'm
Mhm.
so blessed to have come across this. And if it wasn't for recreation, I think I would have been suffering myself through this journey of recovering through a back injury as well.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's one of the things that also not only helped me prolong some of my back pain, but actually
Mm-hmm.
helped me recover that much faster after I had my surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk to me about what recreational intervention looks like. Because I know a lot of people may think right away, oh, you're just exercising or you're
Mm-hmm.
just doing these extracurricular fun activities. But
Yes.
it's more than that.
It's way more than that. And I think it's a very common misconception that it's like all you do is you play and you have fun, and that's what you hear
Hmm.
all the time. But recreation is just so holistic, and it's so I love that it's so client based, and it focuses on their needs and their interests, and it focuses on the whole person. Because sometimes we might just help physical needs by doing exercise, but we forget that
Right.
they have a social need, they have an emotional need, a
Hmm.
spiritual need, and a physical need. And it's how much you observe someone and how well you get to know someone and come up with the right solution for them. And it's not just fun and games. We have a whole process where we assess the person, we plan the right interventions, and we implement these programs for them as well, evaluate them, and see how we can improve them in the future. And the ultimate goal, of course, is to improve the client's quality of life and promote
Hmm.
independence. And through that, we're also achieving that fun and allowing them to be in the moment and be present and enjoying the day. That's all we've got is today and
Exactly.
now.
Yep. Exactly. That today and now is the I think it's what we take for granted.
Hmm. And just to give like a bit more of an example, like, so because it's so unique, and the best thing is you can combine interventions, or have one intervention meet multiple needs. And I'll
Mm.
give you an example to make it easier. So like, say you might enjoy hours of gardening. Like, I love gardening, I don't know about you,
Hmm.
but
I do too.
um, you do too as well, right? And then say you just get out and do some weeding, and that's a physical need that you've met. But say you decide to like garden with someone that you like, and you have a conversation
Hmm.
while gardening, and then now you've got a friend and your social need is met. So it's like you can be smart in coming up with these interventions that can target multiple domains, and that's the ideal for the person, right? And the options are limitless. You name it, like you
Yep.
can do anything. And you shouldn't shy away from any activity as recreation, and also be open to exploring new ones, because you never know what you might discover, and you might become the next artist in town. You never know.
Exactly. And that's where it opens up the door to so many other things. And, for me, I didn't realize I was going to enjoy painting as much as I did. Um,
Yeah.
it just was something that took my attention, and stress was just melted away the longer I sat there and painted.
Hmm. Because you were right in the moment. You were just mindless, like doing the activity, right? You were right into the
Exactly.
activity.
But
Hmm.
and when you mentioned the gardening, it automatically reminded me a time that I tried for so long to get mom out of the house before she moved in with
Hmm.
us, and to get off the couch, get some movement, get some blood circulation, get your muscles, let them fire up. And the only thing that got her up and out of the house was gardening. And
Yeah.
I built a
Hmm.
garden for her in the front of the house, and I kept trying to encourage her to get in the garden with me, but unfortunately at that point it wasn't a raised garden bed that was easy for her to
Hmm.
access. And so,
Yes.
but it did get her out of the house and in a nice comfortable chair to sit in the shade and talk with me. And then all of a sudden conversation just started
Hmm.
to flow where it wouldn't when she was inside just sitting on the couch watching TV.
Yes. That's so awesome to hear. And I think that's the best part is like you have to like look at what they enjoyed in their past. Because I'm sure everyone
Mhm.
in that generation loved gardening and being outdoors, and that's why it's such a draw to them. Like they love gardening. Everyone will come out to garden and help out, and it's so much fun.
Exactly. But there's a flip side to this as well, because I can only imagine when you're working with people and you're feeling just you're so content and full from helping others. Do you also tend to experience compassion fatigue?
Um, Sometimes, because I know, because with where I work, like there's 90 residents, and there's always that not enough time, and what can I do the most in the day to help? Who can I help? It's like
Mm-hmm.
there's always so much more we can do, and that's where I think I get that burnout or compassion fatigue, because I'm like always there and giving, and you want to give more, and that's when you have to. I've sort of like learned to pull back a bit and just also take care of myself, because I think the more I was
Mm-hmm.
able to practice self care and be out in nature, the more I was able to happily give and be there with them more.
Isn't that amazing? I
Hmm.
That's why I wish people would put so much more effort, time and effort and focus on their own self-care, because when you're feeling at your best, you give your best.
That's right.
So, as you started to get more involved with the recreational therapy and working with your
Hmm.
clients, what are
Hmm.
the areas, I guess, like the mental, the physical, psychological? I mean, what are the areas that you have to address as you create a program for your clients?
We actually try to like address all of the domains, because they're all major domains, and we try to um, address all of them. But and we try to focus on our client population. For example, we'll look at their charting, and then we'll assess, and we notice that there's a lack of spiritual programs, or there's a higher need for social because they're lacking social. And then so we try to program around that, because I know it's easy saying like one person, but when you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at a group of 45 and 90, and then it's like, how do you maximize your time that you've got with all these people to give out the best intervention and the best programs to target the right needs at the right moment.
Right.
Hmm.
So, and because of those difficult areas to balance, now it seems like we're in this need of technology to help us. And I think you and I both share that passion to ignite this global shift. And I was wondering, if you had an opportunity to use technology, what would be your way of connecting the seniors and professionals and organizations with the caregivers?
I'm all for it with you, because when I was working, I'd always dream of things like we need to have this and that, and we should have this and that, and I'm so glad that I'm actually doing something towards it right now, which I couldn't be more happier about it. And if you look on Instagram, there's so many great resources available, and
Mm-hmm.
amazing coaches, and lots of tips and tricks just to improve dementia care, because that's one
Right.
thing that I was always drawn to working in long-term care. And that's why I thought, let's bring people together. And if technology can help bridge that gap, like, why not? We're talking like latest cameras and cell phones, and why not something to improve the quality of life of people living with dementia, the seniors, and all the caregivers out there who are struggling all alone and looking for interventions with their loved ones, right?
Right, exactly. I know that's one of the areas that I still find difficulties with, is being able to connect with mom when
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there with her. You know,
Yes.
that limited, and her being able to connect with others that, I mean, I'm sure she may not want to see me all the time. I can't assume she's excited to see me. There may be
Yeah.
others that she would like to connect with as well.
Yeah. Actually, I think during COVID, I think that sort of opened that light of like bringing technology in, because that was the only option to connect with families. And we
Right.
started doing Zoom calls, and that was never in the picture before COVID. So
Mm,
we now carry around iPads and connecting families one to one and doing video calls. And so I think now that's completely become a normal, and they've continued to do that since COVID.
mhm.
So I think we could have done that beforehand as well. But it's interesting how some things will push us towards different new changes and stuff and things.
Yeah, unfortunately, it does take those difficult times to push the change and push us into even thinking outside of the box. which
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's probably one of the things that guided, aside of your passion for this, but guided you towards creating the Dementia Recreate.
So with dementia recreate, like my focus was to stay away from pharmaceuticals and how we can help them through recreation,
Mm-hmm.
environment, and technology, because these are things to improve their environment now and help them manage their behaviors or help caregivers come up with better interventions. So, what I'm actually hoping to do is connect different seniors, professionals, organizations, and caregivers with many expertise around the world in dementia care through like one audio platform. And um, this will be one connection that everyone can come to, share their problems, and find solutions. And if, say, someone in Vancouver is struggling with something that somebody in Seattle is struggling with, like, why not have them work together and find a solution? I think the faster we bridge the gap, the faster the solutions will come. And also,
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that there's a gap in technology with access to computers, and I'm hoping to have like a dialing in option where we can have people dial in as well to this app. So those seniors that don't have a phone or a computer can still dial in and connect with their loved ones and professionals.
Nice. And that is the drawback, this gap, identifying what that gap is, because we can't just assume, oh, they're just older, so they don't use technology.
Hmm.
A lot of times they would use it if it's available.
Exactly. And it's nice to have that both options so we don't leave anyone out. So whoever wants to use the technology, they've got that front hand, and whoever doesn't have it, they can still call in. So I think it's nice to include everyone, and that's one thing that recreation drives for is inclusion, and having people with dementia included in as much activities as possible and in the community. And that's one thing that I am very passionate about, is having them included in communities.
Right. Right. Because that's what, when I've been able to talk to others that are in assisted living, that is one of the first things they try to do is
Mhm.
bring them connection, meaningful purpose areas in life. Right.
Yeah.
But that's not, it's easier said than done, I think, because once you get everybody together, and you just said that, once you get all of them together and now you're down to limited time and resources, how do you reach the individual without just giving them more medication to quiet or calm behaviors, that sometimes those behaviors are related to this activity, that the lack of activity, maybe they have this
Mhm.
nervous energy that they have to work through.
Yes. And that's what's one thing that always frustrates me, is like the lack of staffing. And just sometimes it takes us 5 minutes to sit down and just observe
Mhm.
someone, and maybe it was just an unmet need and they needed water, or maybe there was a loud noise in the background that they need to shut down, or somebody needed to hold their hand for 5 minutes. It's something very simple, and it's unfortunate that we're always running around with no time, that we can't do that. And it's not fair for anyone. It's not fair for the staff, or it's not fair for the seniors either. So
Right. And that's where I think this would be more of a help to long term care facilities or communities, that instead of having to worry about, because I know when it comes down to business, when
hmm
you take the personal side out of it and it comes down to business, you have a budget that they're trying to
hmm
keep. And it's just like in education, when school districts are trying to meet their budgets, one of the first things they look to cut are the extracurriculars between
that's
PE and art and sometimes music class. And it just, it's amazing to me, because then there's that backlash of, well, now that the kids are rambunctious and overactive and we can't quiet them, they're not listening. And it's like that same kind of nervous energy, or that the need to express in a physical way is still there. So now you have
hmm
it in the long-term care communities, where their limited resources goes towards staff, but sometimes staff can only do so much. And
hmm
I've seen some facilities that put a lot of emphasis, and it's part of their marketing, to say we have these activities directors, and it looks great on the outside, but then you look on the inside of the facility and where's your activity director? Oh, that was part of one of the budget cuts. So
hmm
the residents don't even get basic uh, opportunities to like go for a walk outside.
hmm it's sad, and it shouldn't be an extracurricular. It should be priority. I think the
Mm-hmm.
more, coming back to self care again, I think it's the more we prioritize our lifestyle and recreation, the more you're going to prolong yourself away from diseases and illnesses and just a happier life. So I think these shouldn't be an extracurricular. These should be our priority. And it's hopefully we can make that transition and keep fighting for that. And I think we will and get there eventually.
Right, right. Because once we bridge the gap and understand what those gaps actually are, because, you know, I see it happening. There's the
Mm-hmm.
financial part of it, there's the spiritual part of it, and then there's the lifestyle part of it. And there's pitfalls in between each one just because we lose the sight of it. We don't have the awareness of it. And then if we do have the awareness of it, it is a big problem. It's a big issue to take on. So, how do we approach this? Well, in
Mm-hmm.
today's day and age, I mean, technology, we've got to use the tools we've got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's why not? I think there is so much technology, and I think COVID was an example of how to actually connect and bring people together
Mm-hmm.
during, through technology, and rather than just being so apart and separate with social media. And I think it's been really good. I think I've networked with some amazing people, and
Mm-hmm.
like you, and lots of great people that have come along and have shared their passion and have just come on board to be a part of this and help, and has given me the strength to, like, yes, let's do this, let's go on, and let's try to make a change happen. And that's, I actually would like to tell you about an event that we're planning.
Absolutely.
'Cause I'm actually from a South Asian community myself, and I'm extremely passionate about raising awareness around dementia care, especially in the South Asian community, and mental health in general. And because there's so much stigma around mental health
Mm-hmm.
in South Asian communities. And so Dementia Recreate, we actually collaborated with Usha Tiwari. I don't know if you know Usha, and she's known as the Indian Caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
She's from Orlando, to bring forth a free online virtual event on February 19th, 2022. Please save the date, everyone, and come join us. Bring all your questions to our panelists. We've got an exciting panel from UK, US, India, and Canada. So it's going to be lots of knowledge that you can ask lots of questions. And I want to encourage caregivers to openly share their problems, and you don't have to suffer in silence or alone, and you're not alone. And the first step to finding any solution to any problem is to start sharing your problem. So
Right.
yeah, I'm very excited for that. And yes, please come join us.
That's one of the big problems is actually sharing your problems. Uh,
Hmm.
no more of the, I guess, guilt or shame, and just bringing it forth to say, this is the problem I'm dealing with. And I know it sounds, for some people, it sounds easier said than done because
Hmm.
that problem is tied to all kinds of issues, um, personally or otherwise. But
Hmm.
sharing our problems is how we learn from each other.
That's right. Hmm. And there's great examples right now if you're on Instagram, and there's lots of people sharing their journeys and
Mhm.
being great examples and paying it forward. And if they've been through it, and they're like, why not share it with others? And that's why I want to bring all that great knowledge that's out there, and how put it into action, that we actually find solutions as efficiently as possible through this technological application. So fingers crossed. Yes.
Yes, everybody's got to have their fingers crossed with this because as much as it seemed like it was going to be this record-breaking, life-changing result, um, as I mentioned, when science comes forward and their only response is again more pharmaceuticals as opposed to prevention or
Hmm.
understanding what they're really dealing with, it's so frustrating. Let's
Hmm.
stop chasing our tails and start actually really examining things and connecting and expressing more to get things done, to get things in a different direction.
Hmm.
But it's going to
Yeah.
take all of us willing to connect and share our issues and our problems and see if something worked for one person may work for another, and connecting us across the globe in this process.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I would do wonders if we were all able to help each other. And with dementia, if one person with dementia is one person with dementia, and it's so unique, their conditions and their symptoms and the behaviors. And the only way we can find any possible solution is the more brains that come together. And that's why, because when I was working, because I was looking for ideas and I was like, what if we could work together? And that's why I started reaching out. And I'm like, what have you been doing? And, and I think we need more people to be open and just reach out and ask for help. And it's okay to ask for help.
Yes. And that's one of the last things I think caregivers do, just because we want to take it all on ourselves or we want to keep our problems private. But asking for help could be that game changer in the caregiving journey. Mm-hmm. And I know when we had one of our first conversations, I was so excited. And as the conversation got going, I was like, this is great. But then we reached that same point that a lot of people come up to is budget. Yes. We want to affect so much change, but the hard thing is you need funds to be able to make the change happen.
Yes. And with anything, that's always where we come down to is funds. And how are you going to build this, or how are you going to afford to build a technological tool, and how is everyone going to go on there? And I think ideally I would want everybody to have access to it free, but with technology, it's hard to bring anything free. So we're trying to raise as much funds and to make this a reality for people and even to bring to fruition. So I've actually just created a GoFundMe page as well. I'll share the link with you. And if anyone is interested, we would love your support, and please donate. And thank you.
Definitely, because here's the thing is, over a period of time, we are all going to have to learn how to care for our loved ones in one shape or form, because like you said, dementia, is to the individual person. But at the same time, we have got to learn how to take care of ourselves so that we can stop this growing epidemic that dementia is becoming. Mm-hmm. And when we come together, it's something that is, just as you mentioned, the South Asian community. This isn't just one area of the world. We are all facing this. We are all going to experience this. And I have to say it every chance I get, this is not solely a genetic related disease or disorder. Mm-hmm. It's far beyond this. And so every dollar that can go towards this is a dollar that is invested in your loved one's future, your children's future. We have to take the opportunity when we can now, before this continues to get even worse. Because one of the statistics I saw more recently was, we're looking in just the US alone, and I know if you add the numbers up, it's going to be surprising, but in the US alone, we have 5.8 million caregivers. Wow. And they're expecting in less than 10 years to have 14 million. This is only going to keep growing if we don't do something about it now.
Yeah. And caregivers are like superhumans. I have to say, some of them have kids of their own, and they're balancing a job, and it's unbelievable when you hear their stories. And then they have this financial burden on top of everything. So it's, we need to definitely do something to make it easier for them in any way possible.
Absolutely. I love that you were so passionate enough. It seems like this was a calling that, starting from your grandmother to now, it was a calling in life that got you on this path. And I love it.
Thank you. I think I'm just blessed to have some amazing people and just everything come together right now. And couldn't be more grateful. Thank you.
Definitely. So some of the areas, I wanted to kind of give a little bit of ideas for others on right now, whether your loved one is in a community or not, or still lives at home with you. Some of the areas I wanted to kind of touch on: recreational therapy, and give some ideas of what this actually does for your loved one, and how simple you can actually do things in your house if you don't have access to someone like Sushanthi as a programmer. So choosing activities that are skills that are familiar to your loved one is something that I'm sure you've had to deal with, Sushanthi, as far as how you assess their programs and how you create their day-to-day activities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for even like, let's say, for example, someone enjoys cooking. I'm sure a lot of them enjoy cooking, and it's a very basic one. And if you're able to get them to do the full-on cooking with you, then
Mm-hmm.
go on the full rate of full-on cooking session and enjoy a nice recipe. But say if they're not able to do as much, and try to modify it, and maybe they can help you with washing the dishes, or they can help you with cutting the vegetables. And you need to really assess the person and their abilities, and always focus on the abilities. And that's one thing that I strive for, is because as soon as everyone thinks that you have dementia, you can't do anything, and I think
Right.
that's the wrong mindset. You need to know that they have so many abilities still in them, and you need to
Mm-hmm.
just encourage those abilities. And maybe they can even read the recipe to you, because they're able to read and they love reading. So there's so many ways you can still get them involved, and you don't need an expensive coach or resources, and you can do something in your own budget. You can even talk about vegetables and ideas. Just there's so many options, and yeah.
I agree, because the cool thing about cooking, or even baking for that matter, you don't have to eat
Mhm.
what they put together. It's an
Exactly.
activity. It's, you can make something separate, and once they're done with the kitchen, let them have a break and let them go sit down and kind of get a breather, or if they're ready for a nap because it exhausted them. Either way, and then you can present something that you made, and they get that feeling of, oh, we put together this wonderful meal. But the cool thing
Mhm.
about the baking and the cooking is that it's that texture, and it's the smell, and it's bringing
Mhm.
back in the senses, all of our senses, to help with the excitement of being in the moment.
It's one of my favorites, actually. I used to do them every like Saturdays, because weekends are a little slower, and like
Mm-hmm.
it's nice to just do laid back baking or bake some cookies and just enjoy the cookies too. And of course we have to get down dirty and use our hands, and that's the best way to do your cooking, is use your hands. And I don't know, knead that dough and mix that flour, and
Right.
that's the best way to do it. Yeah. Mhm.
Exactly. And I'm glad you said that too, focusing on their strength and their abilities, because that was one of the things. I tried to get visited mom the other day, and I tried to get her to get up and go with on a walk with me, and she didn't want to. She didn't want to move. She didn't want to get up and have to leave her room at that point. And the problem with their ability, and at this part, you do kind of butt your head up against that willpower. And when there is that question of yes or no, or I don't want to, um,
Mhm.
finding areas to go around that. Have you dealt with that, and how do you find ways to encourage them or redirect in a different activity?
I think this is a great point you touched on. I think a lot of the time, I think we don't try enough. And I say you always have to try. And I love doing this, because I would go around in circles, always inviting them for programs, and I get no's all the time. And I'm more than happy to get a no. And it's if that's what they want to do at that time, it's fine. But sometimes it's just the rephrasing, or
Mm-hmm.
putting in it's almost like you're a salesperson. You got to sell this to them, and you got to be the best salesperson. So if somebody likes chocolate chip cookies, and you can just directly get there already, be like, we're making chocolate chip cookies, let's go. And it's just, you have to get to know the person again, and get to know what will get them to come. It could be simple as, just, can you come help me? Sometimes they love to help, and they'll
Right.
come help you with anything. Maybe they don't like baking, but they're coming to help you. So it's completely different. It's the approach. Hmm.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I had to kind of pretend like I didn't know what I was doing and ask mom, I don't
Hmm.
know. I'm not sure. What do you think? How did you do it? And
Hmm.
hope,
They love teaching. You're right. Yes.
yes, exactly. And hope that she would actually share her input, and maybe it triggers a memory or something that she would say, "Oh, when I used to do it, I used to do it this way," and then let her take over.
Hmm. That's the best way to do it. Hmm.
Yeah. Another thing that I didn't realize until after the fact was creating areas that are already set up. That if you're not there with them to guide them, that there is an area that is inviting and already set in such a way that if it has musical instruments, or if it has maybe that
Hmm.
raised garden bed is there ready to go, and everything is at their level of either sitting or standing, however they're at, so it makes it easy, or the desk with chairs even, so if they want to craft or something, that these things are available and there, so they feel like they stepped into something and it's their idea to do this as opposed to someone telling them it's time to go do whatever it is, XYZ. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think this is something that needs to be improved in, especially lots of care homes, because I think we're so used to like packing up and cleaning and putting things away, and everything's out of sight.
So this is exactly why I really wanted to have this conversation with you, because you, of all people, understand the need for this recreational therapy and where it's going. What I want to know is, for the listeners who are interested in participating in the fundraiser for one, but also trying to learn more and follow as Dementia Recreate, how do they get in touch with you? How do we find you?
I've got a Facebook page called Dementia Recreate, as well a Facebook group called Dementia Recreate, so you can come follow us and join us. And you feel free to contact my Instagram at PlayHealsYall, and you can always call me. I will give you on WhatsApp. My number is 778-885-9127. So there's lots of way to get in touch. Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing this. I love that your passion has guided you in this way, that it's only going to be helpful for everyone, that anyone and everyone in the world that can benefit from this and the technology that can come out of this endeavor.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor, and and I can't wait to make as much change as possible and change the direction of dementia care. And that's something I'm passionate about. And yes, I'm very excited too.
Good. Well, thank you for joining in and listening with us today. You can find more about this topic on the blog at jessicalazellcannon.com. The information she mentioned will be there. I hope this gave you more food for thought. And until next time, be proactive, everybody. Take care.
Thank you for joining us today. We really hope you've enjoyed this episode. To learn more about proactive caregiving and to hear other episodes of this podcast, please visit www.jessicalazellcannon.com. This podcast is produced by Cannon Light Media, LLC, www.cannonlightmedia.com. Music provided by Chris Paradise.